Now we're going to learn about irregular verbs in the present tense, specifically stem changers, yogo verbs, and ser, ir, estar, and ver. First we have stem changers, or boot verbs. There are three different types, and the first is e to ie. So our example verb that we're going to use is querer. Now these verbs have the regular endings that we learned about in the last video, but the capital E in querer is going to change to an IE in the yo form, the tú form, the él, ella, usted form, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes form. In the nosotros form, you're going to conjugate it like a normal verb. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the ER, and then we're left with quiere. So we changed that big E to an IE. So we're going to conjugate this like we would a normal verb with the normal endings. So we have quiero, tú quieres, él, ella, usted quiere, nosotros queremos. So we leave that E as a normal E. It doesn't change to an IE in the nosotros form. And then we have ellos, ellas, ustedes quieren. Now these verbs are also called boot verbs because they stem change in the shape of a boot. Our next type of stem changer is E to I. So our example verb is decir. We have that big capital E is going to change to an I. So we're going to take off the IR and then change it to an I, dis. Now, decir is a special type of verb, and it's also called a yogo verb. And in the yo form, rather than dico, we're going to have digo. It's called a yogo verb because it changes to go in the yo form. There are a couple other yogo verbs that we're going to learn about in this unit that we will learn about in a couple more slides. So we have digo. Now, the tú, the él, ella, usted, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes are going to conjugate like normal stem changers. And then in the nosotros form, we're going to conjugate it like a normal verb. So we have tú dices, él, ella, usted dice. Nosotros decimos, so that E does not change to an I in the nosotros form. And then our last one is ellos, ellas, ustedes dicen. Also a boot verb. Our last type of stem changer is an O to UE stem change. So our example verb is dormir. So we're going to take off that IR, change the O to a UE, and we're left with duerm. So now, try to conjugate this verb by yourself. Pause the video, conjugate it, and then press play again. Okay, so we have yo duermo, tú duermes, él, ella, usted duerme, nosotros dormimos, ellos, ellas, ustedes duermen. The next type of verb we're going to learn about are called yogo verbs. So we already saw this a little bit with decir. There are two more we're going to learn about. They end in go in the yo form, but have the regular endings the rest of the time. So our first verb is hacer, which is a normal verb. So we're going to take off the ER, and then we're going to conjugate it. So we have yo hago, tú haces, él, ella, usted hace, nosotros hacemos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes hacen. So the only thing weird about hacer is that it has hago instead of hago. Now, tener is our other yogo verb, but tener is also a stem changer. So, in the yo form, we have yo tengo. So notice how it doesn't stem change in the yo form, but it's going to stem change from an E to an IE in the tú, the él, ella, usted, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes form. So we have tú tienes, él, ella, usted tiene, nosotros tenemos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen. So tener is a little bit funky. You just kind of have to remember it. Our last four verbs are irregular verbs, and they don't really have any rule to them, so you just have to memorize them. Our first verb is ser, which is to be. And ser is conjugated like this. We have yo soy, tú eres, él, ella, usted es, nosotros somos, ellos, ellas, ustedes son. Ir, we have to go. Ir means to go, and we have yo voy, tú vas, él, ella, usted va, nosotros vamos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes van. Our next two irregular verbs are estar and ver. Estar also means to be, and we'll get into that in another video. So estar is conjugated like this. Yo estoy, tú estás, él, ella, usted está, nosotros estamos, ellos, ellas, ustedes están. And then ver is conjugated like this. Veo, tú ves, él, ella, usted ve, nosotros vemos, ellos, ellas, ustedes ven. Ver looks pretty regular because it has the same endings that most of our verbs have, but because it's such a short verb, you don't take off the ER, and the endings are a little bit different.